All right, in this demo, I want to show you how you can take your completed personal HTML page, all right, it looks like this or something like it, um, and you can wrap this assignment up by changing out the picture to whatever picture you want it to be, that's not just some web available picture, and also uploading it to the server. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Right now I'm in my Unit 1 Capstone HTML personal page, as you can see here, and it's something that I went ahead and filled in. All right, and you can see, like, if I click on a link, it jumps down to the right spot and so on. Okay, so this is working, but this is not a picture of me, and I want it to be, right? And so, and I'd like it to be a picture of you. So there are a couple of different ways that you could go about this, but I'm going to go ahead and remind you how to do this by creating this as a project. Right now it's just a pen, and you could have started this as a project, but I wanted this to be something that you could just get up and running really quickly and simply. But I also want to show you how, if you want something to transfer from a pen over to a project, you can do that. So because we don't have a bunch of other files attached to this, don't forget, what you could do is you could just come down here and go to where it says export, and you could export the zip and you could just download it as its own file. That would be fine because we don't even have a CSS folder or anything, or file or anything like that attached to it right now. But what I want to go ahead and show you how to do, just so that later, whenever you have to go and style this for your Unit 2 capstone when we get into CSS, that way you'll already have the project set up as a project. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go back to, first of all, before I do anything else, actually, what I want to do is I want to do a select all. I'm going to do, on my computer, it's Command A. On Windows, it's Control A. All right, I'm on a Mac. And now I'm going to do a Command C, as in copy, or on Windows, Control C. All right, so I'm going to do that, and it puts it in my clipboard. The other thing you could do is go up here to Edit, and you could just say copy while everything is selected. All right, I want to copy that. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to jump back over here to my dashboard. See this little code head icon, unless you gave yours an avatar already. And I want to go jump back over to the dashboard. And what I want to do now is go to my projects, right? And you see, remember, because we're using a free account, I talked to you about this before, we only have one project that we can use, and we can't upload assets, which is sort of annoying. And we're not going to be doing this all semester, right? But this is just kind of to get you started up and running really quickly in the class. But let's go ahead and click on this project that you should have already created from doing your demos. If you haven't already created it, I'm not going to show you how to create it, and I'm not going to go through all of that again. I'd actually really like for you to go back and watch the first or the demo that was part of the Unit 1 tutorials. It's the very last one in the playlist. And so I'm going to click on this project, and it's going to open the project. And if you remember, this was the project that we had before, where it's PROJ, page linking, right? And it's got all these little pages that I could have gone to, right? Well, if you remember, if I go back up to my CodePen root, if you remember from when we had this before, I want to create a new directory, all right? And I'm going to call this HTML, oops, it's HTML, personal page. Or the other thing that you could do, make it really simple, is just let's call it personal page, personal dash page, no spaces. And the reason I want to call it personal page is because later you can also use this when you're doing CSS. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to create this personal page, and if I click on it so that it looks like it's open, you can see here if I zoom in, the folder is open, and that means that anything that I create new now is going to go inside of it. So I'm going to click on New File, and we're going to call this, let's call it index.html. And the reason I'm calling it index is because index files, we haven't really talked about this, index files, when you put something up on a server, you don't have to actually type the file name if it's called index. You can just type the name of the folder that it's in, and it'll automatically load the index file. It's kind of like if you know, walk into a Walmart or something, and then there's that little person there to greet you, right? Right when you walk in the door, you automatically know where you are, and that person can help you find stuff, whatever, right? It's the first thing that you're going to see whenever you walk in to the folder. Like when you go into that personal page folder, it'll automatically drop you right into index.html. I like to refer to it as the gateway file. Okay. Anyway, so if I go here, I'm going to go over to this little set of drop down options, and then I'll go up here where it says CodePen root personal page index.html, right? And that's an empty page right now. Okay, so the next thing I need to be able to do is make some edits to this. Well, I'm in display view. If by chance when you come here, this is what you see, you need to find this little dot right here, and you want to click and drag and pull it down so that you can actually start to see your HTML view, right? And if you remember back from before, one of the things, I'm going to go ahead and close all of these other pages out that I don't need and those tabs that were open. The thing that, if you remember, you're going to use the Emmet shortcut. Emmet is, here, let me pull this all the way down. Emmet is, and it's spelled E-M-M-E-T, is this kind of shortcut code plugin, right, that this particular thing, this CodePen site uses, but also you can get it in Dreamweaver and lots of other code editors, where it's like allows you to do shorthand and then hit the tab key and it'll automatically put HTML code. We're not using that in this class because you need to learn how to write the code first, but in this particular case, it's really handy. So you'll notice that none of this, as a reminder, is selectable. I can't select this because it's not really there. It's just giving me an idea of the things that I need to have there for an HTML file. If I just type HTML:5, like it had said down below, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's like down here where I'm moving my cursor around, okay? So you can see you're supposed to type HTML:5 and then hit tab. Don't hit the enter key. Make sure you hit the tab key, and then it automatically will give you your doc type and your HTML structure. And if you remember, we haven't really focused on actually writing this stuff. It's a lot easier if you just use the template, but just remember these things are very important. You have to have your opening and closing HTML tags. So, right, and of course you have to have your doc type. All right, and then inside of that you've got your head. Inside of the head is, these are three things that are important. They're not necessarily absolutely required, but they are very important. In fact, like this won't work. I mean, this will be something that's really critical to get good rankings with Google. If you don't have this, then it means that your site's not responsive in Google's eyes. Anyway, and it also contains the title, which is, this is a required element. All right, you have to have that. And then everything that we've been doing so far is down here in this body tag area. All the pens, that's where your pen work shows up as a reminder. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to just paste everything that I did before. I'm pasting all of that inside of my body tags, right? And so if I collapse it, you can see that it's all there, right? And it's got my footer and everything, and you should have already finished this on your own. I helped you get started with it and actually writing it in a pen, but this way you can just paste it right inside the body. And something else that this allows you to understand, I think, a little bit better is it allows you to see the relationship between what you're doing in a pen versus how it actually works inside of a full-on HTML page that's got all the other document tags like the doc type, the HTML tag, the head tag, the title tag, and so on. Okay, so now that we've got this in here, let's pull this back up. Let's drag that back up. And first of all, I'm going to hit save all and run. And you'll be able to see down here now, it shows up, right? And I don't want this picture, but the problem is, while we're still using CodePen, I can't upload stuff unless I've paid for a subscription. So what I can do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and export, and I'm going to generate a new zip, okay, because I've got new stuff now. And what it's going to do is it's going to generate the whole CodePen root folder, including any other projects that I've done in the past, so or any of these other subdirectories. So I'm going to click on download zip. It's going to ask me, well, your computer might ask you where it's going to go or not. Mine didn't ask me. Mine just stuck it in my downloads folder. So let's take a look. Okay, and I opened my downloads folder and it gave me this folder with this really crazy weird long hash looking number. And if I open that up, you see that I've got inside of it here, let's just go like this. You see that it gave me my CodePen root folder, right? And then there's that old project page linking test that I had done before. And here's my personal page, right? And here's this index.html file. Well, here's the thing that's really important is that I want to go inside a personal page. So I'm going to double click to go inside of it. And I need to put a picture file inside of this personal page folder, right? That's really important. So I have a picture that I found of myself, looks like that. Okay, I'm going to just drag that over here. I'm going to move it and make a copy over inside of my personal page folder where my index file is. I'm going to close this out. And now I need to basically replace that other, network picture of, I don't know what it was of, some guy moving his hands around or something. All right, and I need to replace that with a picture of myself. Okay, so because I haven't shown you guys yet how to download a code editor, what I showed you before was how to do something in TextEdit or in Notepad on Windows computers. All right, so TextEdit would be for a Mac and Notepad is on Windows. And I've already shown you how to do this. So anyway, what you want to do is you want to right click the index file and you want to say open with, and this will work on Windows too. On Windows you would find Notepad. On a Mac you're going to go down to TextEdit. Okay, and if it opens up like this, then you're in good shape. On Windows you don't have to worry, it's going to open up this way. But if it looks like the actual web page, like the body of the web page on a Mac in TextEdit, then just remember you need to go up here to TextEdit, go to the preferences. First of all, you need to close the file, but then go to where it's, open and save right here, and make sure that this is the only thing at the top that it is checked where it says display HTML files as HTML code instead of formatted text, and make sure that this RTF thing is unchecked. Okay. All right. So what you want to do here, if you remember, let's blow this up and kind of open it up so you can see better. We're looking for this image file, right? This is the image file that is supposed to be a picture of myself, okay? So if I move this up, let's just kind of get this out of the way a little bit, and I'll just do this like so that we can see our file system a little bit better down here, all right? And what I need to do is I need to replace this URL, this really long, crazy URL, okay, that's inside the source attribute quotes. I'm just going to delete that. I need to replace that with the actual picture of myself, right? And so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to link to this picture that I put on here. Mine's called pic-400.jpg. Yours is going to obviously be called something else. And if you're on a Windows computer and it doesn't show you what the file extension is, you need to make sure that if it's a PNG, that you type .png at the end and not .jpg. You have to have that correct. So if you're not sure what it is, you can always right click and say get info, and you can look at the info on a Mac, or on Windows you can look at the properties. You can right click it and get the properties. And it'll tell you what kind of file it is, and this is a JPEG file. And it will tell you if it's a JPEG file, it's a JPG, if it's a PNG, it's a .png, and so on. Okay, so anyway, what I want to do is I want to take this file, and I'm just actually going to just copy the text so I don't misspell it, all right? And I'm going to come up here, and there are a couple of ways I could do this. Right here where it says image src, and in the quotes, inside the quotes, I need to be able to link to that. Now, there are a couple of things. First of all, remember before I had explained that if you're in the same room as somebody, right, you would just say their name, right? So if you're in a room with Susan, Jared, and Michael, and you wanted to talk to Jared, you would just say Jared, right? And Jared, you would get Jared's attention. If Jared's in a different room, you'd have to actually go into the other room, knock on the door, and then go in and ask for Jared, right? You couldn't just say Jared because Jared wouldn't hear you. He wouldn't know, right? So with that analogy, looking at the way that I have this, while these two files are in the same folder, it's like two people being in the same room. Index.html would say, hey, pick 400, you know, come over here, I need you, right? And so pick 400 because it's in the same room, it'd say, okay, index, right? And it would just show up, right? And so here I can just paste this where it says pick-400.jpg, I can just paste that right in there because they are in the same folder. They're in the same like house, or in the same room, I should say, right? And so they can talk to each other. If, however, the picture file, let's go here and create a new folder and let's call it images. And if I move that pick400 in there, at this point, index.html can no longer talk to pick400 in the same way. If I leave this image source as it is right now, then it wouldn't work. What I'd have to do is I would have to go to the images room and images room and put a / in between the two, and it would be sort of like you walk to the images room and the / is sort of like knocking on the door and walking through it, right? So that you can then find pick400.jpg. All right, and so you can start to understand the relationship of how these relative pathways work, and that is what they're called. They're called relative pathways. If I had the HTTPS / protocol scheme at the beginning, then that would be an absolute path. It would be sort of like sending mail from my house all the way to Canada, right? If I did that, I would have to have this big long address on it. Same is true with the web. But if I'm in my own house and I'm just trying to find somebody, I don't have to put a big long address on it, right? I don't have to put an absolute path. All I have to do is walk into the next room and go find the person. That's referred to as a relative pathway. Okay, and that's what this is. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this file. Let's do a save. And then now that I've saved it, I can double click this index file. Actually, what I'll do is I will say open with Safari. That's what I want to use right now. Okay, and so this file is currently on my computer. I've mentioned this before in a different tutorial. It says file : and it's got 3 / and then it's got the long pathway to where my thing is actually saved, right? Okay, so you can see though that my picture is showing up now. It's not that other picture, and if I click on, you know, like pro goals, right, it jumps down to professional goals. Okay, so it's working, it's just fine. Now this is what I actually need to put up on the server for viewing. Okay, and so let's go ahead and do that, and I'm going to show you the difference between looking at it on your computer, right, where I've got this stuff that says file : / right, versus the way it's going to look in just a second. All right, so let's go ahead and open up CyberDuck. You should have already set this up. So I'm going to just look for it real quick on my computer. Okay, and mine just popped up. And so I've already got mine set up. You should have already set yours up as well. And it was assigned at the very beginning of the class. But if you didn't set yours up, you need to go back and watch that tutorial. But I will still at least go ahead and show you how you can open the connection instead of just using my bookmark, which is a quick connect. If you go up here to open connection, you want to make sure first thing you do is you want to choose SFTP. You don't want regular FTP, and it's going to need to use port 22, so make sure that this port number says 22, otherwise it will not work. You're going to go ahead and type in for the server mat.miracosta.edu. All right, and then your username will be your W number. Mine is different, but that will be yours. And your password is the same password that you use to log into Surf and the learning management system. Okay, and you can click Add to Keychain if you're on a Mac, or remember password if you're on Windows, and you want to go ahead and connect. And what it's going to do is it's going to, as I mentioned before, all right, it's going to take you to the very top level of the web directory for the entire web server, for the MAT web server. And you'll see here, if you look at this shortcut, it says /web. That means that it's the top level of the web directory. All right, what you need to do is you need to scroll down and find our class. Our class is going to be mat125 _Kottner. If you go inside of that folder, you're going to see two options. If you are in the online class, you're going to choose Student Work Online. If you're in the on-site class, you're going to choose Student Work On-site. So go ahead and go into the online, and you're going to find your name. Since this is a demo, I just made a folder called X my last name underscore my first name, and that does not really exist, and that's not really where you're going to go. You're going to find your last name, first name, and go into that folder. All right, so be really clear about that. Anyway, so go into that folder. Let's do that right now. And then you're going to see that there's nothing there. What we need to do is we need to drop that folder that we just created up there. So here, I'm going to move this off to the side for just a moment. And let's go ahead and, I think it was in my downloads folder. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up in my Finder. So I've got this, here, I'm going to close that. I've got this CodePen root directory, all right, and then the project folder that I want to put up there is called personal page, all right, and what you probably should go ahead and do is just rename it from personal page. When you put it on the server, you can rename it first and just call it, you know, like unit-1 personal page. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and take that and I'm going to drag it and drop it up here in my directory that's on the server, and you'll see that over here on the right side this little transfers window popped up and it shows that the upload is complete. Okay, and if I click this open and I look inside of it, I've got my index page and my images. And the other thing too that you might not remember is that when we were actually in CodePen, we didn't have this picture inside of an images folder. So in fact, we didn't even have the picture. So it really doesn't matter because we're not in CodePen anymore. But just be aware that we did add this images folder and then put our picture inside of it. Okay, so if we want to look at this now on the web, then what we need to do is go into our web browser, and you'll notice that this right here, it looks very similar. It's going to look the same as it does on the web, but the file pathway is going to look different. So this one is on my computer, and the way that you'll know that it's on your own computer and not on the MAT server that you're looking at through the web, through like the web protocol across the network, is that on your computer it's going to say file : / / all right, and then it's going to have the absolute pathway that is on your computer to that folder and to that file. Okay, now if I want to go ahead and let's do a new tab, I'm going to open up a new tab. I want to navigate to that folder. So I'm going to go to mat.miracosta.edu, all right, and then I'm going to go over to the very end and I'm going to type mat125 _ and then it's my last name, which is COTNOIR. All right, so that's the instructor's name. So it's mat.miracosta.edu / mat125 _ COTNOIR. And then if you put the / at the end and just hit return, it'll take you to a directory that you don't have to keep typing the pathway, you can just click on some stuff. So if we go to Student Work Online, okay, and so here we are, and here's my X, my last name, my first name. Of course, you're going to go to your own, and I'm going to click on that. And then here's my Unit-1 personal page. If I click on that, it looks identical to that page. In fact, you can see me up here. If you look at my cursors, I'm clicking the different tabs, and you'll notice that the pathways keep changing whenever I do that. So this is the one that's on the MAT server, and you see the little MAT icon over here, and it's using the HTTP protocol. So if I were to type this whole thing out, it would actually say HTTP : / and then mat.miracosta.edu, blah blah blah. This one's actually on the server, whereas this one is starting with file : / That means that it is on my actual computer, right? It's not the one that's on the server. So just be aware of that. But this way you need to make sure that it's actually on the server like this, and then you'll take this to turn it in. You'll take this URL, you'll highlight it up here, you will right click it, you will copy it, and then you will go into Canvas and you will paste it into the assignment submission area for that particular assignment. and you'll paste it as the web URL. All right, I do actually want you to do that so that I know that you're actually finished with it and ready for me to grade it. Okay, all right, so that's how you can put stuff up on the server, right, so that I can see it. If it were if I didn't want you to actually put a real picture of yourself, then it would be okay if it just stayed in the CodePen, pen format. But because I want you to actually use your own files and I don't want you to have to pay for CodePen, I wanted you to go ahead and download it, add the file, and then upload it to our server, matt.miracosta.edu. All right, so that will wrap this up. Let me know if you have any questions.